It's bright and early in many communities, villages, towns, and cities in Nigeria. Nigeria is a nation blessed with many gifts of nature, laid creatively by God on the verges of its territories, which stretched roundabout the length and breadth of the nation, providing it both vegetative and security cover. There is relative peace in many of the cities, towns, villages, and their environs. The people of Nigeria are known for their resilience and hard work. They wake up every day to hustle for survival and welfare. Today, as it is most of the time, there is relative peace in many communities and areas of the nation. Many people can be seen going about their daily businesses and freely, but many others are behind the closed doors of many checkered and historical maximum security custodial centers, formerly known as Nigerian Prison Service. Yes, these ones inside the walls of the Nigerian Correctional Service centers do not have the same kind of freedom others outside are enjoying. They are under incarceration behind these walls of the custodial centers. Some already are convicted by courts of competent jurisdictions, and they are serving their jail terms, while many others are here awaiting trials. It is a common belief that democracy thrives on participation. The right to vote is the cornerstone of a free and fair society. The Nigerian Constitution guarantees to protect the rights of all Nigerians, either incarcerated or free. One of these rights is the right of every Nigerian who is of age to vote during elections in Nigeria. But over the years, the right of incarcerated Nigerians who are of voting age to vote has been denied them for so many years. This means that thousands of Nigerian inmates are being denied this fundamental right. In this documentary, Carmelite Prisoners Interest Organization, CAPIO, in partnership with other organizations, delve into the complex issue of inmate disenfranchisement, exploring its historical roots, devastating consequences, and the growing advocacy movements fighting for inmates voting in Nigeria. Disenfranchisement of inmates has a long and troubled history in the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
They should allow the inmates to vote. They are human, and their numbers is among of the 200 million Nigerians. And I don't know the reason why that among of the 200 million Nigerians, people are above 18 in the correctional center, which I know that before you comes in here as an inmate, you must be above 18 years, should be denied of their right of voting.
We don't get right to movement, we don't get right to freedom, we don't get right to vote. The only thing I know we get right to is right to worship, right to life, and some exercises. As an inmate, we are not meant to be denied that right. Even if we have cases that brought us here, they have no right to deny us the right to vote, because we all are citizens of Nigeria.
I come to understand that it is very good if the inmate in Nigerian Correctional will start to vote, because through voting, it will give us some certain good change. We need change, because sometimes people might be out in the time of election, a campaign. They will promise and many things, but we have quality of a leader. We can be here and choose somebody that will take the mantle of leadership, because we need positive change in the nation.
The right for every inmate to vote, because it's not because that quite a number of inmates are in the prison that makes them not to be part of the citizens of the nation. So every inmate also have rights to vote. You might say not only the convicted inmates, but every inmate also has rights to vote. And I believe that there are so many other rights that every inmate have.
I'm pleading and pushing that the government, the INEC, Correctional Services, National Assembly should put mechanism in place for inmates to start voting during the national elections.
Following the colonization era which birthed the nation Nigeria, the successive governments used disenfranchisement laws to exclude certain classes of people from voting in elections. This included women and people living with disabilities. Over time, disenfranchisement laws expanded to include inmates. The rationale behind these laws varied from deterring crime to maintaining order in custodial centers. However, critics argue it is a form of punishment beyond incarceration itself. Sometimes in 2014, some Nigerians serving their jail terms in Nigeria went to court and secured judgment for all inmates in all Nigerian correctional centers to vote during elections. Ever since the landmark victory by Nigerians in prison, now called the correctional centers, against the Nigerian establishments was secured, it is expected that all arrangements would have been put in place to enable all inmates in Nigeria to be able, beyond other rights, at least to vote for candidates of their choices during national and state elections inside the custodial center. Yet, they are still denied this right.
There's no law in Nigeria that restrains an inmate from voting. INEC really has to be careful to make sure that the system will not be manipulated, because that means creating more booths and polling stations at the prisons and collating results from the prison. And another thing, will be politicians or who are campaigning, will they be allowed to go to the prisons and carry out their campaign?
The very fact that an inmate is incarcerated, that does not take away his right to exercising his franchise in any election. He has the right to vote. The only thing is that when an inmate is incarcerated, it is only his right, his personal liberty to his right that is being taken away from him. But every other right, especially his voting right, he is supposed to be allowed to vote.
The Commission is also bound by the provisions of the Constitution and the Electoral Act. And I think in very clear terms, all of these have made it incumbent upon the Commission to create conditions necessary for inmates to participate in the political and electoral processes of their country. And the efforts that have been recounted, clearly demonstrate this commitment. But there are also encumbrances, that need to be clearly identified and addressed, in order to ensure that the last issues surrounding the rights of inmates to vote are cleared, so that we can move ahead. I think if we put efforts, if we put heads together, if we clear these encumbrances, I can see clearly that by 2027 we can move towards having prisoners vote, in elections. So what are these encumbrances? I think the first for me is the overall legal context. I think the legal context needs to be addressed by the National Assembly. Although the Constitution has not prevented anybody from voting, and in fact it enjoins the Commission and other related bodies to ensure that prisoners vote, to ensure that everybody votes, the law needs to define who, even among the prisoners, is eligible to vote, what classifications of prisoners do we have, what kinds of rights do we accord to each, prisoners on condemned prisoners allowed to vote, uh, and so on. These are philosophical and legal issues that the National Assembly has to address before we can move forward in this. And I think this is very critical because right now there's a process on for constitutional and electoral reforms. So I think this is the right time to put these questions and to put these issues on the table so that they can be effectively addressed.
According to human rights lawyers, government use of disenfranchisement laws are deeply rooted in a system that prioritizes punishment over rehabilitation. According to human rights lawyers, government use of disenfranchisement laws are deeply rooted in a system that prioritizes punishment over rehabilitation. By stripping people of their rights to vote, they deny them a stake in society, making it harder for them to reintegrate upon release and have a sense of belonging to the immediate environment. Disenfranchisement doesn't just impact inmates, it affects their psyche, ego, and in the extreme, the society.
INEC should allow the inmates to vote because we are citizens of Nigeria. And again is that you should make people to understand that it is not everybody here in the correctional center are dubious. That we belong to the country and we need to participate in the country, things that is happening in the country.
Being that where we are being prison have been changed, the name have been changed from prison to the correctional center. I think this is one of the criteria that will prove that it is not as it was before, that there is a improvement in the correctional center. If we are given the rights, the opportunity to vote, it will also make us in here to understand that we are not longer rejected according to how it is, according to how it was, that there is a new thing. And that is part of the information that we are talking about.
It's a very welcome development because even as an inmate, you also have the right to vote. You have the right to decide who governs and makes the policies that also affect you even as an inmate. So I think it's a welcome development because if we're given the opportunity to choose our leaders, the impact is going to affect us if we make the right choice. We have the right as citizens of Nigeria to choose our leaders. The policies and the laws that they make there will definitely affect us even as inmates.
It will be a very big honor and a very good thing to us to partake in this in every voting election.
Thankfully, a growing movement is pushing back. Grassroots organizations, legal teams, and even some politicians are advocating for the restoration of voting rights for inmates. The big question is, can Nigeria really have a truly functioning democracy with millions of voices silenced? Inmates are citizens, and they deserve a say in who represents them. One of the worrisome issues concerning this matter is that many Nigerians walking the streets freely are either unaware that Nigerians in custody have rights to vote. Some know but choose to keep mute over it until they are affected. Others choose to sit on the fence. Putting it clearly, are there certain rights people in the streets know that are due to people under incarceration in Nigeria?
The inmates should be allowed to vote. Their vote must count, and it should count in this dispensation.
Giving them an opportunity to participate during the election, it's another privilege to make them to feel among. Most times when unfortunate things happen to some people, there should be a reason for the government to give them an air to see that they still belong to the society. So in my own view, I believe that they should be allowed to participate in voting.
I'll be glad if inmates are allowed to vote because one is that citizens of this country and whatever decision the government of the day takes affects them as well. So if they're allowed to vote, whenever they come out or whichever decision the government takes, they will never say that they are not happy with the decision of the government because they are part of the government. They are the people that voted the government. So whatever decision the government take concerning them, they are also involved.
If INEC will come to agreement and put security so that at the end of the voting, their own voting will also count.
Everybody has a right to vote, irrespective of wherever you are. Inmates are citizens also. They are qualified to be called citizens, irrespective of the crime they have committed. They have a right to vote and choose who is to lead them. Because if they don't have a right to vote, then it means that they are denied their rights as human beings existing in the world.
Representative of the chairman of House Committee on Electoral and Political Matters has hinted, about the provision in the Electoral Act which says where voters will vote where they are registered. And I think this is something that we need to address also in the amendment if we are moving towards amendment. Because right now, when inmates, are incarcerated, some of them may have been registered in totally different places from where they are incarcerated. And so, unless, that element about where we are registered, that we have to vote where we are registered, unless we find, a way of dealing with it, I think it will be difficult, to address the question of inmates' voting rights. Once those two issues are addressed legally, then that paves the way for the Commission to now generate guidelines and regulations consistent with the broad electoral framework to allow inmates in correctional centers to exercise their civic rights and responsibilities.
The challenges with INEC, because already we always say it everywhere that INEC is already overburdened. Logistics is a major, or could see to be the major challenge here when it comes to the issue of inmates voting. Because like it is our present system, where you register is where you vote. And inmates, when we're talking of voting, we know how many correctional centers we have all over the country. And you have to register this person. Today you might be outside. Tomorrow you may be inside. I pray none of us will be inside. But it could happen to anybody. So the issue now is, when you live in Lagos, you may commit a crime in Lagos and find yourself in Portisco, in the correctional center there. Now probably you already registered in Lagos. And so let's say it is the situation for all over the country. There are inmates that are transferred from one place to the other. Even if you are registered in Lagos, we can overcome the challenges. The INEC, because when we have to talk about INEC. INEC is the main body for elections. And like he said, and like the National Assembly, and they've always said everywhere they go, it is for them to see that INEC succeeds.
Inmates' right to vote is going to come with some challenges, and the service is fully prepared for that. Whatever they need to make it work, because this thing has been an issue that both the inmates are so disturbed, especially their waiting trials. Because I think what we're talking here is mainly for waiting trials. And there are over 80% of the inmates who have. So I think the service is very much ready if this thing can come to reality. For them to vote, their polling booth should be inside the concert center. We will not bring them outside to go and vote, because there are many.
There is a strong legal argument for inmates' voting rights. The Nigerian Constitution and the Electoral Act 2022 do not exclude prisoners from voting during elections, and many countries of the world have already reformed their laws. Is it possible that INEC and even the staff of Nigerian Correctional Service (HITATO), known as Nigeria prisons, are not aware of the rights of incarcerated persons, especially their right to vote during elections? If they know, why are they not allowing them access to all these rights? If they do not know, about all the rights of inmates or incarcerated persons, why are the authorities not training them to know the rights of inmates?
I urge the stakeholders and indeed National Assembly to take the inmates voting seriously, given that over 75,000 citizens are incarcerated. There are some of them awaiting trials, and by law, they are not guilty. They are still innocent. So if their rights are upheld, I believe that Nigerians will be seen in the global world as those who uphold the rights of their citizens, especially incarcerated ones, to vote. On the same note, I encourage INEC to also take it upon themselves to begin to create polling units in custodial centers to enable inmates to vote. If inmates can be captured to have a national identification number, even while they are still within the custodial centers, it is also possible for them to be captured to be able to vote in national elections.
Apart from the right to movement and liberty specific that the court has taken away from these persons by keeping them in prison, they have every other right that I have. They have every other right that you have. So taking away these rights from them is a violation of their rights. It's denying them what the law has given to them. Is there any law that says the hundreds of thousands of inmates in Nigerian custodial centers don't have right to vote, that once you enter prison, you cannot vote? They have no legal disability to participate in elections, in general elections, to contest or to vote, at least to vote, to decide who leads them, because it is important for them to vote, because whoever becomes the governor, whoever becomes a senator, whoever becomes a House of Assembly member or a member of the National Assembly or the president has effect on them. The policies, the laws, the treatment of inmates are affected, are decided by our leaders, by persons in office. Most of them who come to power, come into office through elections, particularly those in the legislature. Those are the National Assembly, the Senate, the House of Reps, and at the state level, at the House of Assembly. So, from all our laws in Nigeria, they have not been denied the right to vote and participate in voting, and we should not deny them that right.
The fight for inmates' voting rights is a long but crucial one. Restoring voting rights can incentivize good behavior in custodial centers, promotes rehabilitation, and strengthening our democracy. When inmates have a stake in the system, they are more likely to become productive citizens upon release. This will create a safer and a more just society for everyone.
I'm in total support of that fact that inmates should be allowed to exercise their franchise. They should be allowed to vote, because if the government is preaching against stigmatization and you are disenfranchising the people that are kept on incarceration, it means therefore the government is preaching against what they have not even applied. They are still part of the society. They should be given the opportunity to make a choice of who governs them.
It is possible for them to vote. If the INEC is ready, well, I think we are very ready. We are very ready to do that, because I know that their security is guaranteed.
As a training institution, we are very much ready, and we are praying that it should work, because we have a lot to do to make sure that voting in the yard is done peacefully and fairly. And if it happens, it means the training institution should be able to expand their curriculum, first concerning security. The curriculum should be expanded in that area to include security in inmate voting.
The right to vote is a right for all. By working together, we can ensure that every voice is heard, creating a more inclusive and democratic future. There are many ways you can join in the fight. Get involved with organizations advocating for inmate voting rights like Carmelite Prisoners Interest Organization, CAPIO. Educate your community and contact your elected officials. Let us work together to ensure that everyone has a voice in our democracy. Follow CAPIO social media pages and visit our office in Enugu and Abuja at number 2 Bent Lane, GRA, and Apple Sparklight Shopping Plaza, Durumi, FCT, Abuja, Nigeria.